Hi everyone and welcome back to Bonnie Astrology. Today we're discussing the Astrology of April 2023. This month is kickstarting eclipse season, ushering in major change. As well as that, we have a Mercury retrograde cycle beginning in the sign of Taurus. We also have a full moon in Libra on the 6th, bringing our partnerships into the spotlight. And as well as that, we have one of the luckiest days of the year, which is the Sun-Jupiter conjunction on April 11th in the sign of Aries. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for regular updates, and if you want to book a private reading with me, the information is listed in the description, as well as my socials, such as Instagram, where I post very regular astrology content. So it's worth noting that there will be an April all signs video, the horoscopes for the month ahead. I haven't forgotten it, but I'm quite enjoying doing these little collective astrology videos. If you want to check out my Pluto and Aquarius video, it's also linked below. So April 2023, this is a big month because it is the beginning of eclipse season, and as we know with eclipse season, it brings in major changes. A lot of the time in our lives when there's an eclipse going on, either we are experiencing a major life event or a milestone, or the people surrounding us are. We're either the main character or a supporting character in someone else's eclipse season. There usually is something happening. So this eclipse is very monumental because it's going to be the first eclipse we have in the series of Aries Libra eclipses over the next year and a half. So this eclipse is a solar eclipse, meaning it's happening at the time of a new moon, which means it's associated with new beginnings. And particularly as it's in the sign of Aries, you can bet that these new beginnings are going to be really quite fresh, as Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the second Aries new moon in 2023. I do have a video on that as well, going more in depth into what that means for your sign. But this solar eclipse is going to usher in major change for a lot of us, particularly because it's at the final degree of Aries, the anaretic degree, which is known as a crisis degree. So when we have an eclipse at 29 degrees, even if it's a solar eclipse, which initiates this new beginning, this major change, beginning in our lives, this new cycle, it is also closing out something. And that is even more important because it's squaring Pluto. As we move into Taurus season, the sun is going to be squaring Pluto. So that square to Pluto means that the change is quite impactful, it's quite profound, and it is going to require a bit of shadow work. With Aries and this season in general being Aries season and so much in Aries, the sun, that new moon solar eclipse, Jupiter, Chiron, all of which are in play at this eclipse, there's a lot of focus on the self, our personal goals, our personal wants, and our personal needs. Squaring off with Pluto is saying that in this new chapter of the self, we're going to have to accept that shadow work, the parts of ourselves we don't like so much, jealousy, rage, anger, betrayal, those kind of feelings that we have stored within us that are part of the human experience have to come with us too. And it's not about bringing them in to let them dominate us. Pluto is about power and control. The acceptance of having those parts of yourself is a lot easier to navigate than pretending they don't exist. And eclipses don't let us pretend something doesn't exist, it'll bring it up. So this is indeed, as it is, Aries season for most of April, putting a lot of focus on the self. Now, if we go back ever so slightly to April 5th or 6th, depending on where in the world you are, we have a full moon in the sign of Libra. This full moon is going to oppose the Aries placement. So full moons are always opposite the sun, and this full moon in Libra is opposite the sun, Jupiter, and Chiron in Aries. Without getting too technical, what that means is that this full moon is bringing our relationships into the spotlight in a season which is more associated with the self and our own personal interests. So how is that going to play out? Well, the full moon is going to bring our feelings surrounding relationships, whether we're in one, out of one, thinking about someone from the past, thinking about what we want for the future. Whatever your relationship dynamic is, it's pushed to the surface. It's illuminated under this full moon. This full moon is going to be opposite Jupiter and Chiron. Jupiter is expansive. It's the great benefic. So we associate Jupiter with a lot of good feelings, a lot of joy, a lot of optimism. And of course, we're feeling that mostly on the 11th. But Jupiter is also associated with our spiritual growth. The sun has just come out. I think it might be ruining my lighting, but we'll progress anyway. Jupiter brings out the sun energy. So this Jupiter opposite the full moon energy is about growth and spiritual expansion in the context of relationships. Chiron is the wounded healer. So our wounding surrounding the self and how that plays out in our relationships is also coming to the fore. We're looking at relationships in the context through the lens of growth and healing. And of course, that can mean that some relationships end around this time that are no longer conducive to your growth and your well-being and your healing or your own personal wants and needs, because we as human beings evolve and change what we want, and then that impacts relationships. It can also be within existing relationships that wounds come up that need to be addressed, need to be healed. You can bet though, from an optimistic perspective, because Jupiter is very optimistic, that even though Chiron is in the mix and we may be getting very triggered when it comes to relationships, whatever, as I say, your status, relationship triggers may be coming up around this time. Whatever it is, you're learning from it, and it is an opportunity for growth and expansion and personal development, particularly from a spiritual perspective. Now, that Sun-Jupiter conjunction will be exact on the 11th of April. And I love this particularly because April in numerology is an 11 month, and 11 is associated with our higher visions, being a visionary of our own future, creating our own future, co-creating, manifesting, visualizing. And as much as that can sound incredibly woo-woo from a practical standpoint, it is also about aligning yourself with what it is that you want and taking the steps to make that happen. And one of the ways to make things happen is to have the confidence and the belief that you can actually do it. So the Sun-Jupiter conjunction brings that confidence, it brings that belief, it brings that decision to choose growth spiritually, professionally, on a personal level, because it's Aries. This is where you're going to want to move forward from what is stopping you growing, what is stopping you expanding. And that full moon might mean that you're leaving behind a relationship in your life of some kind, or it might mean that you're leaving behind a pattern in relationships. And then this Sun-Jupiter conjunction is I can do it energy. And also in Aries, it is that kind of just do it energy. Because don't forget, up until April 21st, the planets are all still direct. Now, Mercury retrograde is going to begin on April 21st, the day after the new moon solar eclipse. So while this Mercury retrograde, it's in the sign of Taurus, and just to give you the exact degrees, it's going to be, if you've anything from 15 degrees of Taurus all the way down to 5, or 4, you might notice that this Mercury retrograde is impacting you directly. It is going to impact the Taurus part of your chart, which I'll get into in the All Signs video. But this Mercury retrograde is going to be the chance to start revising and slowing down. Now, I kind of like this Mercury retrograde, to be honest. As far as Mercury retrogrades go, don't get me wrong, they can cause travel disruptions and chaos and miscommunication and all the usual pop culture astrology stuff. But this particular retrograde, despite coming after an eclipse, it's not making too many aspects to the outer planets that are problematic. We've Mars in Cancer. It's not really aspecting Jupiter in Aries to a notable extent. It's quite close to Uranus when it goes retrograde, so it could bring a little bit of surprise to this Mercury retrograde, and then it's going to go all the way back to 5 degrees, and then Jupiter is going to be coming up toward it in May. So we will look at that in May as well, but the Jupiter aspect of it is quite nice, I feel. And Mercury retrogrades are always a chance to review and revisit. So from the 21st of April to the 14th of May, Mercury will be retrograde. But if we look at the shadow period, it's the 7th of April to the 21st of June. So shadow periods, they aren't as intense, but we can notice themes, and we can notice then the resolution of the Mercury retrograde and what it brought up. So with this Mercury retrograde, it is a reflective time. It can slow down the energy ever so slightly. Taurus is a slow-moving sign, but because it's happening in eclipse season, anything goes. There could be things that get shaken up quite significantly. So maybe taking a slower pace in assessing the changes, reviewing the changes, and observing the changes could be important. Reflect, but remember that these eclipses are kind of shaking things up. This is a chance in Taurus to review your finances. This is going to affect things like Wall Street. It's going to affect cash flow. It's going to affect the financial system. This is a good time to review your own finances. Have a little look at your bank account. And I mean that with experience, because I do remember that I didn't realize, I still don't know how I missed this, but I had bought something on a website of a very well-known female musician who's branched out of music. I didn't realize that there was an automated subscription service came with buying something once from their website, and it was charging me every month for a year, and I didn't notice. And that was careless. I mean, I just had no idea. I don't know why. I don't know how I missed that. I don't know what it was saying. I don't know what I thought it was. I don't know. But it was a shock to the system when I did realise. So review your finances, check your bank statement, cancel any subscriptions or automated payments, or at least investigate what the automated payment is. Don't be me. Check your bank balance, check your money, where you're spending your money, what you could maybe get rid of, what you could maybe take out of your expenditure. Again, no judgment, because I've just let you know I can't judge anybody. This is a good time to clean out your fridge as well. Taurus is associated with food, and also clean out your cupboards and your pantries. It just reminds me so much of that clip of the newsreader where he says, check your panties, but he means pantries. There was an autocorrect, and I would have tried it, but you would have thought I was a creep. So clean out your fridge, clean out your pantries. And the halfway point of the eclipse will be May the 1st. So that will be the halfway point of, not the eclipse, the retrograde. That's the Kazimi. That's also the day that Pluto goes retrograde in Aquarius. So that'll be particularly important. But again, we're going into May territory. So other things to note this month before I get into the tarot. To look at what Venus is doing. Venus is still in Taurus until the 11th of April, and then shifts into Gemini. So when Venus is in Taurus, it's a beautiful time for finances. It's a beautiful time to enjoy Venusian things, love, romance, beauty. Venus loves being in Taurus, very home in Taurus, but we have so much activity going on in Taurus otherwise. And when Venus moves into Gemini on the 11th of April, this Venus in Gemini transit is going to be squaring Saturn this year and also trining Pluto. So we won't have had that for the Venus in Gemini transits in a very long time. We'll never have had these particular setups of signs, of course, because we've never lived through a Pluto and Aquarius transit. But this trine to Pluto, I feel like because it's straight off the bat with this cycle could have some degree of friends to lovers energy. The Venus and Gemini cycle in general is going to reinstate the beauty of communication and dialogue in relationships, having open conversations, telling other people what we appreciate about them, what we like about them, what we love about them with Venus and Gemini, the beauty of words and communication. And the trine to Pluto might inspire some communication that is incredibly transformative in a beautiful way. Now the challenge then is when Venus is going to square Saturn shortly after, Saturn being in Pisces. So be careful when it comes to relationships. Going out drinking with a partner or taking substances with a partner could result in a pretty nasty fight around this time. Venus in Gemini is very flighty, it's very flirty. The inebriation side of Saturn and Pisces can test boundaries, because with Saturn going through Pisces, more and more people are going to become sober anyway. And this might be sort of a catalyst for some people. Just bear that in mind with Venus and Gemini trining Pluto and squaring Saturn. You might want to consider respecting boundaries and not having the excuse of being out of your mind on something else, if you know what I mean. It can just bring that kind of an issue up with Saturn being in Pisces, because there's such, with Gemini and Pisces squares, there's such an issue with boundaries. So just be careful of that, particularly if you're a Pisces or a Gemini, Sun, Moon or Rising in the early degrees. Other things to mention this month with Venus and Gemini, also remember to breathe, because Gemini is the breath. Remember to breathe. The Taurus Aquarius square is going on. So as we progress into Taurus season, each time a planet goes into Taurus, now we have this early degree square with Pluto, because Pluto is now in Aquarius. So with that energy between Aquarius and Taurus, we can notice themes of groups of people, rebellions, revolutions, considering finances, values, what we believe to be worthy of our time and our resources. So we're already seeing this play out with Pluto square the nodes going on in France, with Pluto now in Aquarius. We know that the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, the French Revolution happened. It now is something that is echoing to an extent in France, in Paris in particular, with Macron raising the retirement age. So that is leadership, Taurian energy with the finances, the money, the values, and then it's also Pluto in Aquarius, groups of people, humanitarian, rebellion, revolution. Note that around the time of the solar eclipse, April 20th, 21st could be a key time with that because the sun in Taurus, the sun is leadership, Taurus is finances, is going to be squaring Pluto in Aquarius, rebellion, revolution, pushing for change, which is Pluto, and power, a power struggle with leadership. And because it's activated around the time of an eclipse, this is even more significant, even more profound. So perhaps around the time of that solar eclipses tend to eclipse men out of lives. Or leaders. So it might be that a leader, I'm not saying it's Macron, but Macron, funnily enough, does actually have his sun at 29 degrees, the same as Louis XIV, which is an interesting one, but in different signs, obviously. But 29 degrees is a critical degree, and the sun is to do with leadership, meaning that in this lifetime, those with the sun at 29 degrees can come into issues surrounding power, control, leadership. That kind of energy. So there could be somebody stepping down around this time in terms of leadership, as I'm saying. It doesn't have to be him, but there can be something coming up surrounding leaders around the time of the solar eclipse. So other things happening this month, the sun is conjunct the true node, 4 degrees of Taurus, the 24th of April exactly. This can be a time, especially if you have anything, angles, sun, moon, rising at 4 degrees of Taurus, new direction, first steps in a new path, new destiny, determination, the courage to go after something, to initiate something new. And of course we have covered the Mercury retrograde as well. So let's get a tarot card to sum up April. So I'm going to be using the Light Seers Tarot in case you're curious on what this deck actually is. But let's get an April 2023 tarot card for, I sounded really robotic, tarot card please, very automated. Can we get a tarot message for April 2023 for the collective, please? April 2023 for the collective. Ooh, the Lovers. Ooh, saucy. So mature. The Lovers card is coming up, I think, because of the Libra full moon, illuminating love, romance, partnership, connecting with others. I feel like love relationships are a huge theme in Aries season because we've had so much Aries energy and so little focus on relationships, on relating to another, on compromise, balancing with another person. I feel like the Libra full moon reading is going to be so interesting now with the Lovers card. This can also be with, as I say, Venus going into Gemini. Gemini is associated with twin flames, and this is a Gemini card. So perhaps the Venus in Gemini trining Pluto, the part of the Venus in Gemini transit where it trines Pluto, could potentially bring in a lot of love transformations. It could be a really good time to manifest through speaking things into existence, journaling, that kind of thing. Let's get another one, because I feel like relationships are a big focus in Aries season. Oh, Temperance. Wow. There really is a lot of balance going on here. Temperance is about balancing. You see the sun and the moon. Sun and the moon. Eclipse season. And also the fact that the full moon is when the sun and the moon are opposite, bringing in balance. Temperance is a card of balance. I do feel for a lot of people that this month is going to be particularly important for relationships. So we can always notice themes going on astrologically in celebrity culture. Sometimes this can be very surprising. Divorce is happening for long-term married celebrities, or very surprising news considering new pairings. And you might notice that in your own life. There might be surprising splits, there might be surprising relationship changes, statuses, there could be engagements, there could be, as I say, splits as well. But this is really focusing, with Temperance being such a healing energy, on whether or not you're healing your relationship dynamics. And you can heal relationship wounds and dynamics in a relationship or out of it. So whatever the situation, I feel like there's a lot of healing going on when it comes to love and relationships. And not to mention that the Mercury retrograde in Taurus is then ruled by Venus, and Venus is to do with love and partnerships and relationships. So Mercury going retrograde there can be a chance to talk through some old issues, to hash things out, to communicate, to fix misunderstandings. We'll do one more. Do one more. I saw one pop there and it kind of would have added to the picture, but if it wasn't ready to come out, it wasn't ready to come out. One more for April 2023. 10 of Wands. I do think this is a time to leave behind relationship baggage. And where your relationship life feels like hard work, I do think a lot of people might be deciding that that's a determining factor in how things change or progress going forward. I do feel this is a month to leave behind relationship baggage. The South Node is going to go into Libra this summer. This is kickstarting the series of eclipses in Aries and Libra. Relationships are going to change. Relationship dynamics are going to change. Relationship status are going to change. The South Node going through Libra, it will be a time, and you may notice with this full moon, because it's the last full moon in Libra, that isn't an eclipse for a while. So this might be a time where you want to leave behind baggage when it comes to love, when it comes to connection, when it comes to relationships. But all in all, I have a lot of I like that. I think the Lover's card for April is a beautiful card to get, because with so much happening in Aries, focusing on the personal self, the personal healing journey, it's important to remember that connection to others is important, whether that's your best friend, your lover, your family, whoever it is in your life that you love and adore. This month is asking you to call in more of the energy of love, whether that is helping somebody out, noticing it in the street, or just sending a text of appreciation to the people that you love the most. But that is what I have for April. I hope you have a good one. Don't forget, the All Signs video will be coming shortly. It might be up when you're watching this, depending on when you're watching this. And I will also have a full moon in Libra video coming as well. I hope you have a beautiful, blessed and prosperous April, and eclipse season is good to you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.